So here we are for another special edition of Under the Floodlights with Stephanie Makey. I've got it right this time. Heritage number 176 here at Super League Raw. Steph, welcome to your Under the Floodlights.
Thank you very much, Dave. Thanks for having me on.
Absolute privilege. We'll get to all the good stuff that's coming in 2026 in a bit. But before, let's just do what we always do on Under the Floodlights. Let's learn a little bit about you. What got you interested in the great game of rugby league, Steph?
Well, so right back in 2009, so way back, I'd never even been to a game of rugby, okay? And I was being made redundant from my previous job way back then. Anyway, I saw a job advertised at Hull KR as a youth inclusion coordinator, and I thought, oh, I could have a go at that. So I went along. I'd never, ever watched a game of rugby, nothing, not been taken as a child. 2009.
Well, okay.
So quite some time ago now. And I went along for the job interview, and I was really hoping and praying that they didn't ask me any rugby-related questions, because the answer would have been, I don't know, but I'm willing to learn type thing. Anyway, I went along, did an interview, and I was really surprised I got the job. So I got given this job. Next thing I know, I'm kitted out with all like the training gear and this, that, and I was just like thrown in at the deep end. So I was expected to work match days. I was expected to assist with bits and bobs, Sky games, whatever it might be. It was all hands on deck during a match day back then. I used to run the Hull KR Dance Academy all them years ago. Some of our listeners might remember it from years ago. I've got lots of pictures of me with on the pitch in East Park with various kids all doing different dances. I've even been Rufus on occasion. So I've got the odd picture of me dressed as Rufus. So that was quite interesting. And I just learned as I went, really. And then as part of my role, I had to do a coaching qualification. I had to do an officiating qualification, because we used to go out into the schools and we would coach rugby league in schools. We used to run after school clubs, and where we'd have kids coming in, so we'd have little touch rugby games going on. So I kind of had to learn as I went along, really. And I think once I got embroiled in that world, it just went from there. And here we are, 17 years later.
Well, that sounds like a phenomenal job. A phenomenal job.
It was one of the best jobs I've ever had, Dave.
Yeah, well, 2009, a vintage year, Warrington, Huddersfield, Challenge Cup Grand Final. Good afternoon to Greg and to Joel. And, of course, to Ryan Birch. Always a good year, 2009. Vintage, no less. But no, I mean, so, obviously, what was your first impressions of the sport then as a late adopter?
So I didn't have a clue what was going on at first. Obviously, there's a lot of rules to rugby league, especially if you're watching it from someone that's come from no kind of like rugby league background. My family are all Southerners, very much into football, Arsenal fans. So that was what I grew up with. So it was very, very different. But I absolutely adored the buzz of a match day, and being there. And we used to get the corporate gym passes as part of our staff. We used to get 2 season passes to be able to give to family and friends to come and join us. So I just really, really enjoyed all the kind of buzz around a match day and getting involved in all that kind of stuff, seeing the behind the scenes stuff and learning the rules as I went along. And I did pick it up. Obviously, here I am all these years later. But yeah, it was quite overwhelming at first, I think, trying to learn the rules as somebody that was supposed to be working in that environment and was coming from a complete layman's background and had no idea.
And now, of course, all the family of Robins, it's a family affair, isn't it? Match days, the car is always full.
It is. Often 2 cars as well, when we take all the kids. And we've roped in my daughter's boyfriend, who he lives in Lincoln, and he's now driving over for games to come with us, much to my daughter's dismay, because she doesn't like it, so she doesn't come. She's 22, and we kind of get a bit of an eye roll and all the rest of it. And anyway, but he comes across for his game, so it's spreading a little bit.
Fantastic, wonderful stuff. And of course, you'd have seen massive changes in Craven Park in that period since you first worked for the club, and now, of course, as a supporter. The rise of the Robins has been probably one of the greatest stories in modern times in rugby league, hasn't it?
Yes, I mean, back then we had the golf stand for the north stand. The south stand was just the concrete terraces, at the back end. We didn't have anything like Craven Street. We didn't have the north stand as it looks now. It was entirely different. We used to be in a little office in the west stand, and then when we were delivering or doing any kind of training, we were in like what we called the youth club at the back of the east stand. The first team trained on the home pitch and sometimes the back fields. it was very much a small affair, and everybody knew everybody back then. I mean, they used to do the match day reviews in the restaurant above where our office was. So quite often, if they'd not had a successful game all them years ago, we did in Morgan, really giving it some above us in the offices above, telling them off. And yeah, I mean, there was some really fun times. I remember I worked there during the snowfall of 2010 when the world shut down because we had all that snow, and the media and marketing team asked us if we would go and build an igloo in the car park. So me and Liam Wellham, who I worked with at the time, he was part of the community department as well. We goes out with boxes and we built this igloo in the car park. And my son actually modelled, he's 18 now, but he actually modelled the hat and the scarf from the shop with a little Rufus. So we've got some pictures of that. Anyway, we'd finished all of that, and the lads all came out of training. Scott Morrell spotted what we'd done and started up his car and drove straight through our igloo at about an hour. We'd spent hours building this igloo. We were frozen, and it's just gone in the blink of an eye. It was so funny. It was probably one of the most memorable times. It was a really strange day, especially with all that snow. And then he just literally obliterated our igloo right in front of us.
And I think, as somebody who's obviously been a supporter of the Robins through that period in the Championship, and then of course the rise to Super League and all that's gone in between, it must have made last year all the more sweeter.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, definitely. I mean, you go into the smaller grounds and away, home and away, and we've always gone home and away. We've always been a big fan. I mean, I met my current husband in 2012, so he kind of came along for the ride after that point with us. The only time that there was a bit of a dip in when I was going is when I was in the police, because I couldn't really have a season pass because, well, I could, but I couldn't really go to many games. It didn't make it worthwhile having it. So there was a little bit of a dip in the attendance there, but we always kind of followed from afar where we could. And as soon as I left, it was the first thing that we did. And all of the kids got season passes and us, and off we went again. But yeah, I mean, being there, I never thought we'd see that day. Like I say, I remember the days where it was nowhere near as professionally run as it is now. And although there was a lot of fun attached to those days, it ultimately it's a sports club, isn't it? And, the professionalism around the ground and the feeling when you go there is entirely different to way back when I was there. And it's great to see. It's great to see.
Well, it's great for the sport. So in terms of your time watching, what's your favourite memory? Obviously, family time is the most important, the fact that you do it all together. But in terms of on the field of play itself, any other than the obvious of winning the trophies last season, what early memories have you got where you felt, yeah, I've really got the bug now? Can you remember where that fire really started to burn on the terraces?
Yeah, so I remember way back, we played Leeds at home on a Friday night. It was blazing hot sun. We were drawing, and Michael Dobson was going for a penalty. And it was, I think, if I remember, I mean, we're going back, it must have been 2009, 2010 era. And I'm sure it was from about 40 yards out. It was a really long penalty. And he kicked it, and the absolute crowd erupted at Craven Park. It just went absolutely nuts. And we ended up bagging the points, and we won the game. But we'd been on the back foot all game, and we chipped away, got it back, and then Michael Dobson kicked that penalty, and away we go. And it was just such a great feeling, and I just remember it being so hot. Everybody was roasting hot, and it was the height of summer. And it was, for me, it was just what rugby league is all about. When you're all there, you're all wanting the same outcome. And yeah, and then it just, the wind blows your way and it goes your way, and there we go.
And that was the great Leeds side as well. That was the great Leeds side. That was the, Rob and Kevin and Danny Maguire, etc. Albeit roles reversed last season. I've got to be fair to the Rhinos fans out there. That at that point, you the Robins were very much the underdogs against that Leeds side. And then last year, Leeds came down to Craven Park and got a W, and that famous try. So yeah, that probably will make Sharpie and that smile, I'm sure. What other memories have you got where you, like I say, that just really stick out in the time that you've been watching the club?
So I remember, unfortunately, when Chev Walker broke his leg. That was a really awful game to watch. So that I remember that wasn't nice. I think I put some on the WhatsApp group the other day as well about when Lincoln Withers got his really terrible injury down there. I was there for that game. I remember seeing that and being really worried. It's awful to see a player that gets injured like that. It's really hard to pinpoint. It's really hard. A lot of the match days, I was taking on 150 kids at half time to dance in front of all their family and friends, and building that relationship with the community and building these little kids' confidence. And some of these younger ones that were part of the dance academy way back then went on to become later cheerleaders, and they joined the main cheerleading squad. We linked up with Wakefield Trinity, because they had a really good cheerleading squad to get all that off the ground. So that was a really memorable time. It was a real proud time when I look back about what we achieved and how many people that we engaged actually from the community that would come down every Thursday night. We used to run 3 or 4 classes throughout the evening. I think we used to lock up Craven Park about 10 o'clock on a Thursday night after the last class for the older ones, and it would start from anywhere from 5 o'clock, and we'd just have this steady stream of dancers coming in. We charged a real nominal fee just to obviously cover our overheads, and we'd put them out and they'd dance on the pitch. And it was wonderful to see all these kids engrossed in what they were doing, but building a love for the club as well and for rugby. And there are people that I now see at rugby who were dancers in that dance academy when they were young. So for me, that's one of the fondest memories of when I was working there.
I mean, what you're talking about there is inclusivity, which of course is something that we pride ourselves on in the great game of rugby league. Everybody's welcome, which brings us on very nicely to something that's going to be very, very different and very, very inclusive, because we're recording this just hours away from the debut of this.
It's getting hot.
So there it is, coming this evening, every Tuesday morning. The Super League Raw Ladies Tackle Talk Men's Super League has never sounded like this. This is breaking new ground, Steph. You are going to be the host of the all-new podcast. First of all, how are you feeling? How's the nerves?
I don't feel too bad, Dave. I think I'm a bit of a fly by the seat of my pants, and we'll see how it goes. I've got some notes. I've prepped some of the other ladies who are having a part to play in it as well, things that we're going to bring up for a discussion so that they're all prepared. But you know what? Our group and the way that we've been talking over the last few weeks and building this ladies community, I think it's been really positive. And we had a test run a few weeks ago, and said, I said to him, can you spare me an hour? And 2 hours in, I had to bring it to a close because everybody had so much to say. And these were ladies that were nervous about wanting to do this, nervous about putting their opinions out there. And actually, that 2 hours went in the blink of an eye. So if it goes anything like that did, I don't think we're going to be having an issue tonight at all.
Fantastic. And of course, let's be fair, the demographic of rugby league, there's a massive female contingent that follow men's rugby league. And this is why we spoke about bringing this project to life, because the knowledge within the female supporters is as strong as anybody's, isn't it?
I would absolutely agree with that. I've got lots of friends that go to rugby league from both sides of the city, and there's that healthy banter, but we also have those conversations as well about who's doing well, who's not. And you only have to take a look at the WhatsApp groups and the community that we've got at Super League Raw to understand actually there are some women on there that have probably got more knowledge than some of the blokes that are out there. We was having a conversation last night about some of the outrageous comments that some of the girls had seen on social media from some of the matches over the weekend. And I had to laugh. One of them saying the fellas need to put the shandies down is what they were saying, and that's a huge step forward in confidence, that these ladies are putting their opinions out there and challenging the men and saying, actually, what we've got to say counts as well. We do know what we're talking about.
Yeah, and why do you think we're the first? I mean, there's going to be nothing like this. Yes, there is the female presenters, like for example Jenna Brooks. We've seen Meg Wellens come forward, but other than presenters, we don't really see any rugby league podcasts that are developed for women, by women for women. And that's not to say, of course, men aren't going to listen to this. I'm sure they will out of interest. And I think they'll be very surprised by the depth of knowledge. Because like you say, the stereotype is that men know best in this sport. And I think you're going to challenge that narrative. But why do you think this has never happened before?
I think a lot of it is to do with it's a very male orientated sport. Yes, we've got women that play from grassroots level up to the Women's Super League, but it's not got the same following that the men's game has got. So I think a lot of it is to do with confidence, and is there a certain stigma about, women passing comment and having an opinion on a male performance? You know, is there a stigma about that? Do women feel underqualified, if you like, to actually pass comment on a game that perhaps they might not have played? You know, I don't know how many of the ladies in our Tackle Talk group have actually played rugby. Some of them may have played, some of them may have played touch, some of them may have played for fun, some of them might have no experience of playing. You know, so that I suppose there's that underlying nerves about whether or not they feel qualified to have an opinion or discuss tactics when actually they've not been involved in that side of the game. That doesn't mean to say that that opinion's any less valid. It just might mean that we view things differently to people that are looking at it from within. And I think that's just as valid as anything else. Where, you know, we're talking about the game as an observer, people that we go home and away. Quite often, some of these women that we're talking to will go more frequently than the men. You know, just because they're male or might have played it 15, 20 years ago, it doesn't necessarily mean that their opinion and their reasons for commenting are any more valid than what we can offer.
No, and to be fair, you know, how many supporters that are male that are in the stands have never played the game of rugby league. And, you know, I think that, you know, you see a lot of critique of when professional players, you know, so for example, Jodie comes under scrutiny because she's commenting on a men's game. You know, you see it in the football arena where, you know, you've got women pundits commenting on the men's game, and that's frowned upon for whatever reason, and there's a lot of debate with regards to that. But what we're talking about here is supporters, you know, and the vast majority of supporters have never played it to a high standard, and therefore, you know, I don't really think that matters too much. You know, if you know the detail of the game, if you study the game, then for me, you have every right to comment on it, and I'm sure you're going to do that very well and very respectfully.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we all watch our own team, but the vast majority of us will also watch all the other games as well, or certainly as much as we can. You know, and it's really interesting to see how the different teams play and how we view it as well differently. You know, quite often you guys will be talking something quite in depth and we'll be like, oh, I never really saw it like that. Or we might mention something and we get the same response. I never really thought of it like that. You know, and it's about, we may view it from a different perspective, and that's equally as valid as anything else. So I do think it's a confidence thing. And you know what, right? Somebody's got to break that ground. Why not be Super League Raw? Why not be us? Why can't we break that ground? And why can we not try and break down those barriers and get more women involved in this side of things? You know, come and talk to us, because you're right. I listen to podcasts. You know, I started out as a listener to the Super League Raw before I became a member, and then before I became a more active member in this, and obviously popping on to, you know, Final Whistle and weekly and whatnot. But I also listen to other ones, and you're right, they're male dominated. I don't think I've listened to any other podcast where they've either had a female guest on or a female presenter. There's nothing else like it. It should appeal to the female contingency of the rugby league fan base, or I hope it will.
Yeah, well, we've spoke, because I know that you and Mike have been very, very gracious in saying that, you know, becoming a part of Super League Raw has improved your understanding, but also your enjoyment of the game of rugby league, because you're surrounded by people who have the same infectious personality and the same infection for the game itself. Very positive groups, very glass half full in the way that we view it. And like you say, your knowledge of the wider game has certainly took on a whole new level, hasn't it, over the last 12 to 18 months?
Absolutely. Like I say, I mean, we've always followed Hull KR, and to a degree, you know, we keep abreast of the scores, and we obviously watch Hull FC and whatnot where we can. But actually, it's probably the last 2 seasons through Super League Raw that we've started watching the wider game, you know, and watching, and not just watching for the results, but watching the actual players, watching the players, watching their development, watching what they bring to a play, watching how different teams play and the different tactics they use. It's been really interesting, actually. And it's definitely broadened my knowledge. And because there are other people to talk about with, I live in Hull. I'm not really going to find anybody in this area that is a St Helens or a Warrington fan that is going to sit down and have a decent conversation about the game over the weekend involving their team. Where else can we do that but the WhatsApp group of Super League Raw, where we can actually sit there and we talk about it? Or like the final hooter, we come on, we talk about it, we talk about what's happened. That in itself, and having that level of conversation with other people, improves your knowledge.
Yeah, Absolutely. And of course, there's more of that this year because we've got instant reaction that we're going to try and get off the ground straight after the matches around the grounds, which we're looking forward to. We've got your podcast, the Tackle Talk podcast, where the women of our great sport are going to get together and do exactly that, talk about the game as a whole. Yes, their own teams as well, but the game as a whole. And of course, we've got the final hooter, which again allows everybody, male, female, even the younger members of Super League Raw, to have that opportunity to come on and just talk about the game. So there's going to be plenty of opportunity this year for the members of Super League Raw to have a word, to allow their voice to be heard. And I for one am really looking forward to it because I present far too much. So to have the opportunity tomorrow morning to listen to the Tackle Talk podcast while I'm doing my work, I'm really looking forward to that. Even more so because you're real people and, we've got to know each other very, very well. And again, that's the other lovely thing, isn't it? That if people come and join Super League Raw, not only can they get involved in these podcasts should they choose, but they start to know the people that are doing those podcasts, which I think elevates it even more, doesn't it?
Certainly. And, we've got a community on that WhatsApp group that is Ladies Tackle Talk for just the ladies. That is quite a safe space, actually. And
just on that, hello, Mr. Roach. Got to mention Mr. Roach, who's, of course, in the Ladies WhatsApp group. Carry on.
I mean, who are we to judge, Dave, really? Who are we to judge? But, it's a really safe space for the women. And I can't believe how much people have come out of their shell within that environment. These are women that have, most of them have been a member of Super League Raw for as long as me, if not longer, and perhaps didn't participate anywhere near as much in the conversation to what they do now. And it started off, obviously, in that group where there was a lot more interaction. And it's then developed and that spread to the other WhatsApp group, the mixed WhatsApp group. We've now got these ladies putting their opinion forward within that forum containing male members as well. And I think it's great. There are people within that, in that group chat that I now consider friends and I've never even met them. But I do because we talk all the time. It's gone from being part of a WhatsApp group where people say, a pass comment on a game to actually we talk. And we've had some really good conversations, not just about rugby league, but about other stuff as well. And it's to a certain extent, people have provided support to one another as well. And I just think it's really grown legs of its own.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Let's just get back to you in your rugby league. I think we've plugged that podcast really well. We'll end on the podcast at the end of this particular episode of Under the Floodlights. But in terms of players, first of all, in your time watching Hull KR, who would you say has been your favourite player in a Robins shirt?
Oh, you like to catch me on the hop here, don't you?
I do. Who's your guilty pleasure? Who's the one that you love?
I used to really, really enjoy watching Michael Dobson.
Yeah.
For all them years ago. He was Mr. Reliable. He was just calm. He always had a calm head on his shoulders. I really enjoyed watching him. I thought he was a great kicker. He handled the wins at Craven Park really, really well. Very memorable player. Fantastic.
Of the current crop, who's your go-to in the current crop?
So I really like Tyrone May. I think, what he brings to the team, I think often is underrated. He quietly goes about his business in the background and he orchestrates a lot of the players and what's going on in back play. And you don't always see that. Obviously, you've got Mikey Lewis, who's out there, creating and performing and putting on a show for everybody. But behind him, you've got Tyrone May that's allowing him to do that and giving him the space to do that. But I also like Arthur Morg as well. And I think he's a really exciting player to watch. He's got some great footwork. He reminds me sometimes, and it runs from backplate of Sam Tompkins when he was younger and how he used to step around and in between the defence and off he went. So I quite like Arthur Morg as well.
Well, obviously, he's been under Sam, hasn't he, for a long time at Catalan. So probably that's why you see elements of Morg's game that are very, very similar to Sam Tompkins. And then, of course, in the wider league, let's talk the wider league. If you could, if money was no object, knowing your team as you do in terms of the personnel that you've currently got, if I said to you, you could bring in 2 players from any other club, who would they be? And you need to think about that because I'm gonna say to the point of they would start, because that probably takes Bevan French away, because I think your loyalty to Mikey would mean he doesn't come in. So it makes you think a little harder. So of your current squad, if you could pick two players, regardless of money, that you could just slot straight in where you go, that's it, World Club Challenge done. We're winning, no doubt, with those 2 added players. Who would they be?
Jai Field.
Full back over Morg, yeah?
Over Morg, yeah. Yeah, I know it seems disloyal to say that, but he's a great player. He's very fast.
Yeah.
So Jai Field at full back.
Okay.
And Dave, you've got me on the hop here. I was going to say John Asiata.
Oh, what, instead of Minute?
No. I mean, they bring very different to the team. I think the two very different loose forwards. So I wouldn't want to put him in place of Minchella. I like Minchella, but I also like the way Asiata plays, and it pains me to say that really because he's obviously a Hull FC player. So I don't know. I think Lewis Martin's a great player.
Scored a hat-trick at the weekend.
He did, yeah. I think he is a great player. I think he's got a bright future. Yeah. But would I bring him in over our wingers? I'm not sure.
I think you would for the long term.
For the longer term, but immediately for World Club Challenge, probably not. I don't think he's got the experience to be able to handle it on that scale. That's no disrespect to him because he's obviously brand new to rugby league and he hasn't come from a rugby league background, has he? No. Do you know what, Dave? I don't know.
Fair enough. Well, I'll tell him I'm seeing Lewis on Wednesday, so that'll be interesting. I'll let him know. No, I was really surprised. There that you didn't go add a 9 because I think a foil for Jez would have been a place where I went. Just a little foil for Jez.
And who would you have had?
Oh, if I was you, biased obviously, but I'd gone Danny Walker all day. Imagine that as a 9 combo, Walker and Litton, regardless of who's there.
Yeah.
Has to be the combo for England. That for me has to be the combo for England at the end of the season. I think it could be marvellous. Right, let's bring this to a close because obviously you've still got your prep to do. We might catch up with you again as the season goes on. But in closing, if you had a crystal ball and if you could see into the future, once you're 6 months down the line with your new podcast, what would you hope this podcast, even at the 6 month in terms of a time frame, what would this podcast be achieving for you? What are your goals with regards to it?
I think that I'd like to see a wider reach across the Super League teams. We've got representation from Leigh, Warrington, Hull KR, Hull FC. We don't have anybody from Castleford.
Well, Debbie, I think Debbie Hasty. She's
Castleford. Sorry, yes. So Wakefield, we haven't got St Helens fan. We haven't got Toulouse fan. York, Bradford.
Nope.
Catalan.
Nope.
Nope.
Huddersfield.
We haven't got female representation. So for me, I would like to say that in 6 months' time, that we have got those gaps, if you will, filled, and we've got women coming to join us from those team supporters. And I know that Catalan is obviously a little bit more challenging. Toulouse is a little bit more challenging. But we can try, can't we? We can but try.
Yeah, well, absolutely. And in terms of content, I mean, any spoilers going into episode 1? What type of things do you think you're going to be discussing week in, week out?
Well, I'm not going to give too much away, Dave, but tonight's going to look a little bit different because we haven't really got any games to get into the nitty-gritty of. So tonight's going to be a little bit more informal. We're going to talk to the ladies about what brought them to Rugby League. We're going to look at our predictions, for example, for this year, our suggestions for Man of Steel, for example. There might be a little cheeky calendar thing going on, but we'll have to see what comes of that. But from next week, once we've got some games to discuss, I think it'll have a little bit more structure. We can talk about the games that have been played. We can talk about cards, tackles, etc. Pretty much like what you guys do on the Final Hooter, but from our point of view. Obviously with a few little bits and bobs thrown in, such as tackle of the week and whatnot. So that's the plan. Like I say, it's one of these. It's a suck it and see. This is a brand new thing, brand new, breaking new ground. We'll have to see what works, what doesn't work. We can make amendments as we go along. And if anybody wants to come and join us, obviously they're more than welcome. And if they're not feeling confident enough to join the podcast straight away, that's absolutely fine. We've got members that are sitting there in the WhatsApp group that are quite happily sat there giving their opinion, giving their conversation. And I've actually said, I might join in a few weeks when I've seen what it looks like and when I've got a bit more confidence. And that's also absolutely fine.
Yeah, absolutely. So that'd be why not join us? If you become a Six Again member, you have the opportunity of becoming a part of the Tackle Talk podcast. And like Steph brightly says there, you can feel your way in. You can sit, you can listen, We actually had this a lot in the socials, so we've got socials, haven't we, at Super League Raw? And I remember Heather Bailey, and a big shout out to CHB Property Services Limited, who are going to be the sponsors of this podcast. But I remember Heather Bailey coming to the socials for the first time, and she was very much in the background, very, very nervous. And then before you know it, she's chiming in, and having a right good chat. And that's what it's all about. It's a very, very friendly community. But no, look, mate, I have to say, genuinely, hand on my heart, thank you for taking this project on. I do believe it's breaking new ground. It really is. And on behalf of the ladies, they might not know it yet, but I do believe what you're going to provide by sailing this ship is an ability for those ladies that get involved to learn new skills as well and to develop themselves as people. I know that's what podcasting has done for me and for everybody who's been involved to this point, but I think that's going to get even further in the women's community in Super League Raw as a consequence of what you're doing. And without you putting your hand up, would this have been a reality? I don't know. So on behalf of them, a big thank you for what is to come. On behalf of me, a big thank you, because I know you're going to do a great job under our banner. And roll on episode 1, Steph. Cannot wait, mate, to see what you've got in store.
Good. And thank you for the opportunity, Dave. Really appreciate it. And we've really enjoyed all the prep so far. And like I say, these people that I've just met on a WhatsApp group have become friends, and it's great.
Fantastic. So that's a very quick and to the point under the floodlights with Steph Makey. Of course, now you're going to be hearing those tones every week, every Tuesday morning from 6 a.m, well in time for your trip and your commute into work. You can listen to it on the way to work, on your dinner hour, or on your way home. Listen to the Super League Raw Ladies Tackle Talk podcast. Men's Rugby League has never sounded like this. Steph, thanks very much for your time.
Thank you.